Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the WP-Tonic interview show. My name is Adrian, and we are joined here today by Sima from 48 and 48. Welcome to the show, Sima.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We're also joined by Jonathan Denwood from the WP-Tonic agency. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Oh, thanks, Adrian.
That's funny because it's his show. So today's episode is sponsored by Kinsta. Kinsta is the WordPress hosting company to beat in our official opinion. Kinsta's support and their pricing and their actual product in terms of delivering your WordPress website for your clients and for your customers and for your website visitors is second to none. Please go to www.kinsta.com in order to learn about how they can seriously help you improve your website's experience and delivery by providing superior support, superior product, and superior hosting. Again, that's www.kinsta.com, and please let them know that you learned about us, or learned about them rather, from WP-Tonic. So, Sima, I want to welcome you to the show officially. Would you mind just giving us a quick introduction about yourself, telling us a little bit about what 48 and 48 actually does? I know that you're a nonprofit, which is something that we haven't really done on the show before. So do tell us all about that.
Well, thank you very much, Adrian and Jonathan, for having me on the show. My name is Sima Parekh. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm the executive director for 48 and 48. 48 and 48 is a nonprofit. Our focus is to mobilize technology and marketing professionals to build websites, free websites, for small nonprofit organizations that can't afford to do so. Now, we've typically done this by hosting on-site hackathon-style events in 48 hours to deliver these websites for the nonprofits. Due to the COVID situation, we have now pivoted to a completely virtual situation. So this year, for example, instead of going to a specific city and doing an event, we're doing them online. Our organization, 4848, started in 2015 with a small group of people. Co-founders are Adam Walker and Jeff Hillmeyer. We have since created over 200 websites, and we've had 20 different cities that we've impacted and serviced. We've helped over 800 websites, I should say, and over 2,500 volunteers. Sorry, got my numbers mixed up there just a little bit. So that's what we do. And hopefully
some pretty impressive numbers.
Well, we've been at it for about 5 years. So every year we've added a new city and we've increased the number of nonprofits that we've helped. So I'm hoping that your audience and network will be interested in supporting our cause and our nonprofit.
I hope so too. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your core genius? So we were talking a little bit about the show before the show. You're the director of operations for not only 48 and 48, but somewhere else as well.
So I'm also the director of operations strategy and programs at IHG Hotels, which is also headquartered here in Atlanta. So in that role, basically, I'm driving programs and projects that are specifically initiatives of the COO. I am in the Americas region, so I'm responsible only for Americas programs. So we do programs that definitely impact all the hotels in the IHG family that are specifically AMER related. And these can be initiatives for streamlining processes with our hotels, or programs that will help with anti-human trafficking or employee safety devices, something that's going to be reaching all hotels. So that's my day job. And on my free time, I'm the executive director for 4848, where we help nonprofits, where that's mobilizing the volunteers that are marketing professionals and technology professionals, giving them a way to give back to the community. We can all go serve at a soup kitchen. We can all go build a house for Habitat for Humanity. Might not be our core skill set. It's not my core skill set, but running programs, running strategy, making this work from an organizational perspective is where I come in and how I can help give back to the community.
So this is pretty unique. I've never heard of really anything like this before. How on earth did you kind of just like fall into this idea? It's like, you know what would be great? If we could build nonprofit websites for free. Like, that would be awesome. How did that happen?
So I don't own that genius. That actually belongs to the co-founders, Jeff Hillmeyer and Adam Walker. And they are incredibly entrepreneurial and incredibly creative, and both have the skill sets and such. Both have run technology agencies and companies. Jeff runs a company called Dragon Army. Adam Walker was also part of a company called Sideways 8. And they put their heads together, and it's probably like they're best buds. So they probably came up with this idea over a beer. Like, who knows what happened? They said, what if we could actually help the organization, or help organizations that need our support improve their digital footprint? I can just imagine the conversation they had before they came up with, oh, let's just try it for the weekend. And then they called a bunch of their friends and said, what do you think? And people showed up, right? And from there, it was like, by the end of that first 48 event, it ended up being, well, when's the next one? Now, I don't think they planned on doing a next one when they first kicked it off, but that's when the next one came around, and they started looking at sponsorships and different people that would help. And I got involved because at that point in time, 5 years ago, I was actually working with an agency as the director of project management, and the agency was a support. So it was called BKV in Atlanta, and it supported and sponsored the first event. So that's how I was brought in, and my team was brought in, and I helped lay the foundation of how this is going to work.
So before we go for our break, and I know Jonathan's probably itching to ask a couple questions, but I'm just going to hog the microphone for a moment. So agencies, just so we can walk through and what I understand so far. So agencies are called up and nonprofits are called up, and agencies or developers or whoever sit down for 48 hours and build or choose a nonprofit website to help. So obviously the nonprofit will receive some sort of benefit from this exercise. What's in it for the agency? I mean, agencies are pretty strapped as it is.
Yeah.
They're probably one of the most like brutally hardworking groups of people on the planet. So what's their incentive?
Multiple, right? I would say I'd start off with just the person that volunteers with us is passionate about giving back to the community. So it doesn't really matter what industry you're in, right? You can be in an agency, or you can be sitting at home. It really doesn't matter. It's a matter of finding a place for your skill set, like where you can benefit. Like, I'm the professional at this piece. This is my skill. How do I give it back? This is my expertise. So that for an individual. For an agency, what we found in Atlanta is that we initially reached out to agencies because they have all the skill sets that we need to build a website, be it the WordPress developer, the designer, the UX UI person, the content person, SEO, digital marketer. It's all there at one stop. So that's where we reached out to agencies initially to say, this is what we're doing. What do you think? And we had a load of agencies jump on board just because they want to give back to the communities. Every organization that we work with has an initiative to give back to the communities. And so I think that's in it for them. And, we do through sponsorships, there's advertising, and there's your logo where you want it to be seen by loads of other people. So, it's a win-win, I think, for both.
So there's a little bit of branding opportunity. There's a little bit of feel-good karma going on. So. Yeah. Is there a typical size of agency that you reach out to and work with, or can anybody apply?
Anyone can apply. Yeah, we restrict nobody. In fact, as we go forward, as we go forward into our events this year, we are actually doing a global event, 2020 global event. It will kick off on October the 2nd, so October 2nd to October 4, where it's open to every individual. Like, you can be with an agency, without an agency, with a larger organization or not. And we will build nonprofits all over the world. Our goal is to hit at least 5 countries with this push. And volunteers, I'm expecting that we might get to about 500 or more virtual volunteers, right? And that's reaching out just to past volunteers and any new ones with our sponsors and our partner companies as well.
So there you have it. So for any agencies listening, and you want a little bit of PR, and you also want to give back a little bit, you're going to have to get in touch with 48 and 48 for their global event. I am now at this time going to pass it over to Jonathan.
Oh, thanks. So, are there any particular non-profits that you've helped that stick in your mind, actually, that you think you've really helped more than the average?
Oh God, that's a great question. I feel like we've hit over 800, so it's hard to pick specific ones. The one that comes to mind most is a homeless charity that is called Project You First. Now, it's been in the news recently because Project You First is focused on providing bare essentials to homeless around the community. It's based in Atlanta, and what they do is they take the most needed items. There's like 4 or 5 needed items for the homeless, being like some, hygiene wear, socks, and shampoo, soap, those types of things. And they put them into a little packet, and someone goes out to distribute them. Now, about 6 weeks ago, Tyler Perry reached out to the nonprofit Project You First, and the leader of that, whose name is Erica, and donated a van. So a $20,000 van to put all their materials into, or all their gift bags, as however you want to call it, to distribute to the communities. And Erica and her team will basically go through Atlanta, and they cross state lines to just distribute these items to the homeless.
Oh, that sounds great. So are there, you said everybody's welcome, and I'm sure they are, to volunteer, but are there any particular skills that are in short supply that you're really looking for?
So because all of our sites are built on WordPress, we're always looking for WordPress developers, right? And this is how I found you, Jonathan. You were referred to me by Vito from
Yes.
the UK, right?
Great
And
guy.
yeah, fantastic guy. So Vito, he's worked with us for the last 2 years at our London event, because we've done US events and we've got crossed the pond over, and we've done 2 events in London over the past 2 years. Now, WordPress development obviously is a core skill set. We also need UX and UI designers. We also need content marketers or content developers and project managers. I love project managers. So they keep it all together, and that's basically the skill set that we need. We'd love to have SEO people. We'd love to have digital marketers to help with strategy on a website. But any skill set that would need you'd need on a website to build a website, that's what we're looking for. And we do have that 5 core skill sets. Those 5 core skill sets, we try to build each team accordingly. So currently we're in a process where we're recruiting nonprofits and we're recruiting volunteers. We will match the 2 up based on region or time zone based. So East Coast and West Coast for the US, Canada will also be included. And then we will jump across the pond and we will do the UK and Europe. We're currently in conversations with having teams in South Africa as well, and possibly out in Asia. So all of this is sort of happening at the same time, lots of balls in the air. We're very excited that it's going to be a global event, and any support that we can get from your audience is completely welcome.
Oh, it's fantastic. We're going to go for a break. We'll be back in a few moments, folks. So when I'll hand it over to you, Adrian, if you can do the next advert when I hand it over to you, right?
What is it for Kinsta?
It's for WP Fusion.
Okay.
Right. We're coming back. I'm going to pass it over to Adrian again.
So I want to quickly thank our next sponsor for the second portion of the WP-Tonic interview show. And that honor goes to WP Fusion. If you're not familiar with WP Fusion, it's probably one of the more essential plugins that you'll ever need if you're a WordPress developer or marketer especially. CRM and marketing automation is a critical component and pillar of a growing business in 2020. Without your list, what's your business really worth? The money has always been in the list, and sometimes it can be hard to get data from your WordPress website into your CRM or marketing automation tool of choice. If you're using Groundhog, if you're using ActiveCampaign, if you're using Infusionsoft, sometimes it's just hard to get your membership site or your form or whatever LMS you're using hooked up and integrated properly and nicely. WP Fusion is the solution to that problem. All you have to do is install it and install the required integration for your CRM of choice, and it will automatically connect your WordPress plugin suite to your CRM so you can maintain a single source of truth and really take control of your data and own your list and make that an asset for your business. So go to WPFusion.com and you can let them know that you came from WP-Tonic. And I'm sure Jack Arturo, who is a great guy and a great developer, will be happy to show you the ropes and get you started on a way to really maximizing your data.
Oh.
Alrighty, there we go. So John,
ask the next question.
oh, it's down to me. So Sima, your specific core genius, as you mentioned several times, is project management. Project management is probably like one of the most difficult things that agencies deal with. They have 1,000 ideas and dozens of clients who all want different things. I'm curious, because you're on both sides. You have to deal with nonprofits, and I imagine that nonprofits, by nature are quite needy, and so managing dozens of them at a time might be a little bit difficult. And you're also dealing with the brain scattered agencies, and I'd like to know how you kind of like keep it all under control.
So what we did when we implemented our project management program for 4848 is we set a basic set of guidelines, right? So we have a high level timeline, and that has milestones included that you need to achieve in order to get to the end of the weekend. 4848 project managers are given the liberty to use whatever tools they need to manage their work that they're doing at their station. But we use tools like Trello to manage through the project as far as status of where things are going.
Is that for individual projects of the individual nonprofits, or is that for 4848 as like a general organization?
It's for each individual nonprofit has a Trello board associated with it, right? So a project manager is responsible for a Trello board, and we've already scripted the basic cards in Trello. And that just means you complete a homepage, move your card over. You complete a secondary page, move your card over. Things like that. So we've simplified it to that point to where it's like we're basically looking at the big rocks and saying, this is what we need you to accomplish. We have PM check-ins twice a day during the event, just to sort of make sure that the project managers have what they need from their PMs, have what they need from their nonprofits and from their team. And if not, then there's a hierarchy of project and program managers within the system that allow an escalation process to find whatever you're missing. Say that your developer decides not to show up on one day. Well, then it's escalated up and we'll find a fill-in for you, right? Or say your designer's got to leave early or someone's got transition work. That's how the project manager can escalate to somebody else while they know that they've got a milestone to meet. If they can't meet it by that time, they're asking for help, and we've got support on both sides to help make that happen. Right. So we keep it really tight, right? We keep it tight.
From experience of working in an agency, the agency has ideas, the client has ideas. How do you consolidate ideas in a timely manner to actually build something out that looks good, feels good, and is approved by both the agency and the nonprofit in 48 hours? Because that is what I would love to know, because it's always taken like at least a month to get anything out the door that anybody is happy with. So how do you accomplish that in 48 hours?
Well, number one, I think you need to volunteer for a 4848 event and get hands-on experience on how I do that, right? That's what I think you need to do, Adrian. But number two, just to give you an idea. So we know that we're focused on building our websites on WordPress and Beaver Builder. That's it. You choose from a template from Beaver Builder. You don't have options on going somewhere else. These are the platforms that we're going to support. This is the plugin we're going to support. You have a finite amount of plugins that you can also use during the event. Because the event is a 48-hour event, we are building a simple website for a nonprofit. We're trying to help improve their digital footprint. Now, it is up to the developer and the designer and the team on which template they want to use. But what the nonprofit has already done prior to the event is they've completed a branding questionnaire a content questionnaire. There's a staging site that's already up that sort of helps us identify what their sitemap's going to look like. So we've got loads of information prior to the actual build event, which starts on a Friday evening. So we've got that, and that's what we're going to work from. So the team actually reviews all that content, all that information, and we ask questions to the nonprofit like, do you want to look like an Apple website, or do you want to look like a Macy's website? Like, what is it that you want? What's the look and feel? We ask them very specifically to list a few websites by URL that are in their same space, right? If they are specifically working with education or sustainability or whatever this nonprofit is doing, we ask them to say, if you could be like anybody, like, where would you go, right? And so all of that information is shared. And then we have the nonprofit sign off to say, this is a volunteer event. Your team will do their best to create the best website they can for you. You do have say, which means that on Saturday at around noontime, the nonprofit gets to look at their homepage and basically see how the team has laid it out. If there are any significant issues, which usually there aren't. There have been one or two that may have been a concern here or there, but typically the nonprofit's more than happy with the homepage that's created. The team shows them what the flow is going to look like, and it ends up working out quite well. I mean, I think a little bit of magic, a little bit of just knowing that people are giving their whole weekend up to do this for you is appreciated. And we are targeting those smaller nonprofits that don't have the skill sets to do this, right? So we're not going to a $3, $4, $5 million nonprofit that can write a check for it. These are the smaller ones, community-based, that don't have the skill sets.
So essentially, like, they provide as much information as humanly possible, and it's up to the agency to do good by them at that point.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Right. And then that's by skill set, right? Like, because we see some absolutely fantastic websites from a template, and we see some that are very templated. But at the end of the day, because we know that the parameters for Beaver Builder are already set, there's not a bad website, right? Like, right. You're not starting from scratch. And I think a customized website like you're talking about, it takes you a month just to figure that out because it's a very custom thing. But we are not. We're already starting from a template of sorts. And there are hundreds and hundreds of templates. So the more time that the teams have prior to the event to sort of get their arms around the nonprofit, the basic info, the better that website's going to be.
So what's the percentage of, is it like 100% where the nonprofit is like, you know what, that's great, and they push it live? Or is there like a certain percentage that they're like, we're not going to accept that, and we're gonna do something else, but thanks for your effort? Is it 100% success rate? Is it like an 80% success rate?
I don't know. 100% is a lot, right? I would never say that it's 100% success rate, because we've had one-offs to where, you know, some people have just not been happy, or they didn't feel like something was captured properly, right? And so I say we're in the high 90s of going live. The biggest thing that stops us from going live is a lot of times just making sure that we understand, or that the nonprofit has communicated their hosting situation properly to us, like where are the files going to be, right? Because for the first 30 days, 4848 will host your website for free. We work with a vendor, Clockworks, and they host it for free here in Atlanta. And then after that 30 days, the nonprofit has the option to take their files and migrate them to whatever hosting provider they're using, or they can stay with us. And you always have that, oh, well, I thought I sent you that information. Where's my Cloudflare? I don't understand Cloudflare. You know, you're just going to have those types of things go on. So we try to support the nonprofit as best we can to launch the website. And I think our biggest issue is that bit of a hang up there.
I think there's a lot of high quality information that can be recontextualized here in terms of an agency. I mean, so if you're an agency and you have like a specific niche, I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be nonprofits. There's probably not a lot of money in that specific industry. I could be wrong. Maybe if you're working with the bigger ones, but if you're operating a specific niche, that just shows the value of collecting information and basically setting expectations, because that's what you're doing, right? You're setting expectations of, you know, this is what the information is going to provide. You're going to provide absolutely zero once the build starts, your input is complete, and that's the expectation. And then whatever we deliver is what we deliver, and you can accept it or not. And I think that's a valuable methodology for maybe an agency who's working in a specific niche to adopt. It's like, hey, listen, this is the information that you can provide. We have tons of templates, and we know what we're doing, and here are all the people that we've successfully worked for. Once our build starts, and we're going to finish your website in like 48 hours. What you get is what you get. If you're not happy with it, you're not happy with it. But you can price accordingly for that kind of situation, or maybe introduce additional tiered packages for customizations or updates beyond that. But I think there's a valuable model that could be used in an agency context within this. So I want to thank you for sharing that. I want to pass it back over to Jonathan.
So Sima, you're in your past career, you've been a project manager. What are some of the reflecting back, what are some of the key skills that a effective project manager needs to bring to the table?
For our 48 and 48 event, very specific?
No, in general for agency,
Oh, for agencies. So I think the project manager has to have very good skill sets of listening and making sure that they understand what is being asked for, and to be able to scope the project properly. Because a lot of times with my teams, one of the things that we would constantly coach on is what the client is asking for. How long is it going to take to do it? What type of skill sets are you going to need to bring to the table? So to pay attention to what is being asked for and what the deliverables will be, and be very clear with your client and with your account management team, really, because the account manager is the one that's really selling it to the client. The project management team is not necessarily selling anything to a client, right? So be very clear that this is what we've scoped the amount of work to be. This is the scope of the work. If it exceeds this, then let's have a backup plan. And I find that with a lot of agency, because we are always wanting to please our client, we always want to say yes to our client, where it's difficult for project management and an account person, for example, to sort of agree on what the actual deliverable is. And if it's not articulated clearly, documented properly, and you don't have agreement from the nonprofit or the client that you're working with, you basically run off rails really, really easy. And that's where you've got too many hours going into a project. Now you can't reconcile it when it comes to billing and things like that. So I think that is key, just structure, and making sure that your scope's really tight and that you can adhere to it. And you have to have agreement. Just from my experience with project management at an agency, you have to have an agreement with your account people to say, if I tell you that this is going over because of this, or that this request is too much, I need you to support me with the client in order to figure out what our solution is going to be. Not that we're going to say no to the client, but just what's our solution, right? Have your backup plan, because I can't see any project where you've created one schedule and it's just been perfect. I don't think that's ever happened in my world. It's a living, breathing thing. Things change, people change their minds, but there has to be some sort of rails that you've got to stay within.
Yeah, also it brings mind, I was early on this year, I was dealing with a client, but not directly. I was brought in as a kind of subcontractor, but I was at some of the meetings with the client. It was a non-profit, but it was a very highly financed non-profit, right? And it was a large project. It was a six-figure project. But I was amazed at the amount of meetings. There was just endless meetings. I think if you're not used to dealing with websites in that kind of price point, you're shocked by the amount of meetings. Would you say that just goes with the territory?
It is. And I think with every meeting that we go to, from a project management perspective, I'm always telling my team, have your agenda, have your specific tasks that you're following through, start on time, end on time, right? And just make sure you've got it sorted to get to the next step. Because a lot of times we have sideways conversations. We don't have forward moving conversations. And then the more people you have at the table, the more opinions you have. Sometimes that's great. a lot of times that just means your meeting is going to run over and you may not move the 2 steps forward that you needed to move, right? So really be careful on who you invite to the meetings and what the purposes of each individual in the meeting. Sometimes I found that people wanted to be in a meeting just because they liked the client, but they weren't necessarily contributing, but they just wanted a seat at the table, right? Which is fine, but it's just like, it just takes more time when there are non-essential people. And I don't mean that in any kind of rude or negative way, but I'm just like, keep your teams tight, make sure you know what you're going to deliver at the end of each of those meetings, and then you're going to stay on track, right? You've got a better chance. Let's just say that. You've got a better chance of staying on track.
Right then, I think we're getting close to the end of the podcast. The half hour went pretty quick. So Sima, what is the best way for people to find out more about 48 in 48?
How do agencies register?
Oh, both. Just go to the website, 48in48.org, and there's the pages laid out to donate, volunteer, sponsor. Click on those, it'll walk you through, sign up and register. Your sign up right now, you'll only see 2 events because we've got 2 events remaining for the year. We've got a State Farm virtual event that we're doing, which is open only to the State Farm employees, and the global event, which is open to everybody. So I would highly recommend that your network and your audience here go to our website, sign up and be a part of this amazing event that we're going to have in October.
Oh, sounds fantastic. So Adrian, how can people find out more about you and find out more about Groundhog?
So I didn't do my usual introduction, but for anybody who doesn't know who I am, I'm the CEO and founder of Groundhog, and we are a marketing automation and CRM tool for WordPress, which does start out free for any nonprofits listening to this podcast. So Groundhog will allow you to grow your list, launch your funnel, and scale your business. As that's incredibly important for nonprofits, I think, considering that the money's in the list, and in order to actually get donations and to get volunteers, you need to be able to communicate with those people. So maybe, Sima, that might be an idea to include into your standard plugins list. I don't know, maybe. But go to groundhog.io to learn more about our free WordPress plugin and solution to help you grow your list, launch your funnel, and scale your business.
Yeah, and we're going to be, me and Adrian are going to be doing a free webinar in September. It's going to be the first Tuesday. I think that's the 1st of September. We're going to be doing that at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Provisionally, we haven't agreed this, but I think the subject is going to be how to utilize marketing automation if you've got a membership site to increase actual turnover, increase the amount of products and offerings that you can offer to your students. It should be a fantastic webinar. So we're going to have that up on the WP-Tonic website over the weekend, and you'll be able to sign up for it. And it should be a fun hour between me and Adrian trying to show you the power of marketing automation. We'll be back next week with another fantastic guest, another great discussion. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.